In this movie, I'll show you how to change the definition of a paragraph style, and I'll also show you how to create and use a character style. Now, in the case of this image, I like the way the word romance is formatted, so I'll go ahead and select the romance layer, and then I'll press the T key to switch to the type tool. And you'll see that I've set my font to Mistral. Now, that may not be installed on your system. If not, try out some other script font. If you know that you not only want to lift a style from some text, but you also want to style that text so it updates along with the style definition, then your best approach when creating the style is to select at least one character of text. Then go ahead and bring up the Paragraph Styles panel and click on the little page icon. Then double-click on Paragraph Style 1 to bring up the dialog box, and let's go ahead and name this Romance Style. Then I'll click OK in order to dismiss the dialog box. Notice that this time around, we're seeing Romance Style with the plus sign, which tells us, sure enough, we've linked the style successfully to the layer. So to make everything good, just drop down to that clear override button and click on it. Now we want to style the in the air layer, so go ahead and click on it, and then click on Romance Style to link it, and then drop down to the clear override button again and click on it. And from this point on, we're not going to have to click that clear override button anymore. All right, now let's say that I look at this text and I think, it doesn't want to be blue, it wants to be red. I need to change the style definition, and you can do that by double-clicking on Romance Style. However, I recommend, for the best results, that you switch away from any text layers when you perform these kinds of modifications. So just go ahead and select an image layer, for example, then double-click on Romance Style. In our case, I'll click on the color bar there, and then I'll change the hue value to 0 degrees, click OK, and you can see that the text is already updated in the background, assuming that the preview checkbox is on. Then go ahead and click OK again. All right, now let's say I want to make the word air blue. And because it's just a single word, as opposed to an entire paragraph, we need to perform this step using a character style. So I'll go ahead and switch to the Character Styles panel, which is just next door. And then I'll click on the little page icon to create a new style, and I'll double click on it to bring up the dialog box. And notice this time around, all of the settings are empty, even inside of the other panels, because we want to create essentially a context neutral style. In other words, this is a style that could turn any character of type blue regardless of its formatting. So I'll go ahead and click in this question mark bar right there, and I'll change the hue value to 210. I'll change the saturation value to 100, and I'll change the brightness value to 75. Then I'll click OK, click on style name, and call this guy just blue, and then click OK again. Because the background is selected, that doesn't end up affecting any type. So now I'm going to double click on the word air, and I'll press Control H or Command H on the Mac to hide that highlight so I can gauge whether the color works. Then I'll click on just blue, and sure enough, just that one word changes, and none of the other formatting changes along with it. All right, now I'll press the Enter key on the keypad in order to accept that change. All right, here's another way to work. I'm going to switch back to the Paragraph Styles panel. Let's say I want to directly format some type as opposed to working inside the dialog box. Well, that's an option. All you need to do is, for example, double-click on the word romance here. And this time around, I'm going to change the font to Seago Script. And again, that's a font that's on my system. It may not be on yours. And then I'll tab over to the type size value because after all, the text is too big, and I'll change it to 50 points. And I'll press the Enter key one time, the Return key on the Mac, in order to accept the change to that value. Now notice that Romance Style has a little plus sign after it, quite reasonably because there are local overrides this time around. If you want to redefine the style, which is what I want to do, then drop down to this little check mark and click on it. And that will go ahead and not only redefine the style, but also update both of the text layers. And notice that the word air remains blue, even though it is now set in a different font and size. All right, so that's all good. Now, before I wrap up, I do want to make you aware of what I consider to be a strange decision on Adobe's part, and it may be the kind of thing that ends up confusing you as well. I'm going to hide the Paragraph Styles panel, and then I'll go up to the Window menu and choose History in order to bring up the History panel. And you can see that we've got an awful lot of states here. Oftentimes, when you're applying a paragraph style, Photoshop throws in an extra step where it's applying a character style as well. But here's the thing I want to make you aware of. If I go all the way back to the open state, which returns us to the very beginning of this movie, notice now if I bring up the paragraph style panel, I still have a style. and it's called Romance Style, and I also have a character style called Just Blue. You cannot undo the creation or modification of styles. So notice if I switch back to paragraph styles and double click on it, I will see that I'm still in Sego's script as opposed to Mistral, and the color is red and so forth. So it's a little bit of a gotcha sometimes. You just have to remember nothing you do to styles can be undone. That said, you can throw them away. And if you want to get rid of a style without a warning, then you press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and click on that little trash icon. And that's how you change the definition of a paragraph style and work with character styles here inside Photoshop.